Welcome to my weekly live chat. And today, this is Chat with Lee Weissman and Friends. I'm Lee Weissman, and my friends will be on in a moment. And I hope that you'll join us. If you're looking at this on Facebook or on YouTube, you'll see that there's a little link. It says StreamYard. All you have to do is click that StreamYard link, and that will get you right into this room, and you'll be right here with us. So please feel free to come and join the conversation. And for my guests who are with me right now, so I have a few guests who are here already, so I'm going to bring you in a second. So the subject I chose for today, and hopefully the conversation will be free-ranging and a little bit, is religion the problem or the solution? And I'm gonna, I'm gonna kind of skip maybe telling a story, but I will share one little personal thought before we start. I have been religiously observant, I guess, for about 30 years. I kind of started discovering religion in a more personal way, in a more serious way, when I was in my late 20s. And I have to admit, I have to tell the truth. In the initial stages, I was a horror. I was just terrible, in the sense that I had just, discovered religion, and I was convinced that I was right about everything. And I felt a need to convince everybody around me that I was right about everything, including my own family. And I really, I alienated people who I loved and cared about, and did and said things that I've really regretted for years. And of course, I'm not unique in this. I think many people who have become observant, become religious, have had that experience, or if they've had family members or friends who have become religious, they've had that experience, that people became religiously observant and started to act like jerks. That happens. I offer that as kind of, I'm going to throw that out there. So I'm just going to I'm going to invite my friends into the room, and I hope that other folks will come join us. So I think Annika was the first in the room today. I think so. So
could be. I was a bit early just to check out everything works, because last time I failed completely.
Okay, well, so far everything looks like it's working out great. Okay, so welcome from Scotland. So religion, is it part of the problem, part of the solution? What do you think?
Well, it could be both. I think for me, my conclusion after thinking a lot about it is that it's problems are caused by our egos, right? And you can use religion to justify what you're doing in a bad way, and you can use it in a good way. No, for me, it's more a solution than a problem. Mm-hmm. But I understand what you told us about, that is a problem, and I've experienced it myself when I grew up as a child in the south of Germany, in Bavaria, in a little Catholic village. And my mom happened to come from Sweden, was a Protestant, and that was really not accepted. So we were almost bullied in the beginning for not having the right faith. And then, of course, it's a problem. But it's not religion itself, if you ask me. It's people's egos. They want to be something, and they will find something that's wrong with you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's religion, and then there's also kind of religious identities, that may have very little to do with religion, Protestant, Catholic. I sometimes think that when it comes to these religious differences, people often don't even understand what the differences are, right? They don't even really know. I grew up with a lot of course, anti-Semitism. I grew up in a kind of a Irish Catholic neighborhood, and I don't think that they didn't really know a lot about us or about, what we believed or what we didn't believe. They just sort of knew that we were
probably not.
Right. What do you think, Hanina?
Okay, so for me, I'm not comfortable with the term religion. I was wondering if we could substitute the word faith there. You know, is
Okay.
faith is faith part of the problem or part of the solution? In that case, I would say that faith, as I see it, is a path to truth, and truth can never be part of the problem. Faith is part of the solution. I mean, a truth is part of the solution. So if I kind of equate faith with truth, then I would have to answer that it's always part of the solution because I'm always seeking for truth.
I, yeah, I mean, I think that it would be nice if faith were always true. I think that one of the one of the dangerous parts, I think, is that sometimes we attach our faith to things which are not true, right? And then that becomes kind of our operating system, right? Um, so hopefully, hopefully our faith is true.
But if you're seeking after faith, then you I would imagine you're seeking after truth. Is that not the case?
Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. Um, I mean, it's interesting. I think that faith means different things, to different people. I think for some people, faith is very much a kind of a seeking after truth. For some people, faith may be something which um, something which they've inherited almost, right? Which kind of like a kind of tradition or something that they've kind of, it's not necessarily sought it out, but kind of it just kind of come to them, kind of whole cloth. I don't know. Um, well, what do you think?
I think that people should be like educated on religion, and some people use religion as a tool to meet to get like a tool to like gain something from it. It could be like power, it could be being close to God, it could be anything. Some people just like abuse religion. So we have to like get to the root of, like, for example, like extremism. How does that start? Or if someone is being spiritual. So it's kind of like a complex thing. So I would say we need to know the problem and the solution. So
Yeah, I think there's. I mean, I think that part of your point is very right. That people use religion in so many different, ways, and even mean so many different things by it, and even by faith, mean very different things by it. It can mean, and it's in this service of lots of things. It could be in service of politics. It could be in the service of the ego, as Annika said. Um, it can be of course, it could be in the service of humanity, in the service of spirituality, in the service of all sorts of things. So, um, yeah, yes, Hanina? Hanina, you're.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So when I look at the question again, is faith a problem or a solution? I when I'm thinking of it, I think is it's different if you talk about whether it's personal, your faith, your personal faith, is it a problem or a solution, or the global manifestation of faith, is that a problem or a solution? When I
Right.
think of the global manifestation of faith, I recoil in fear often.
Okay.
When I think of it personally, I find it is something that's vital for me.
Right.
So, and I unquestionably think of it as a solution. So it really depends on if you're thinking of it as a personal, um, if you
Right.
think it personally or you think it globally.
But that's a great question, because then it's like, why is it that on the micro level we see that it does so much good, right? I mean, honestly, on the micro level, when I look at people around me who are religious, and I know a lot of them, and thank God I know a lot of them of a lot of different religions, primarily Muslims and Jews, I would say, but some Christians also, I, and some Hindus also. I know some Hindus and Buddhists also, and I can say like it does incredible amount of good on the micro level. It's so great, but I think you're right that on the macro level, sometimes when you're looking at the global picture, it's like it can be so divisive and so divisive and so destructive, and yet when I look on the individual level, I see exactly the opposite. I see people who really are genuinely, devoted to forming relationships and to doing good in the world. So that's an interesting divide. I don't know exactly what to make of that, honestly. Muhammad, what do you think?
Thank you.
Okay.
I think the most of the religions that create problems, they have not learned or the teaching of their religion. So just like me, I am a Muslim, but I have not the learn all the teaching Quran and Hadith. So I have no knowledge about this. That it create a lot of problems, not as well as me for me, but or for the other religions. So it's mean that the followers are responsible for this because they have not proper teaching of their religion. So I think it's the main reason of the problems.
Maybe it's like guns. I know somebody who likes guns, and I was going on and on about guns and whatever, and I don't like guns, and he said, "Look, the danger is not guns. The danger is people who don't know how to use them. Most people,
Yes.
most people who are killed by guns are killed by accident, you
Yeah.
know." And so maybe it's like that with religion. The danger is not religion. It's just that people don't know how to use it well. They don't understand it well. And sometimes in their really poor understandings, they do, silly or stupid or evil things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hanina?
Just want to go back to what Mohammed was saying. I think what he was trying to say was a little bit beyond that, is that they don't understand it fully. Because if they understand their own religious teachings fully, they often complement certain texts, complement other texts, so that the essence can come through if you have the full set of whatever was revealed in that particular religion. Am I correct in assuming that, Muhammad, from what you were saying?
Actually, I don't understand what's your question. Please repeat it.
Well, I was just trying to reinforce what you were saying that that the problem comes from not understanding the full body of the teaching. To understanding it in total, from all the parts, all the books, all the teachings that are part of that faith.
Actually, it's because when we spend our life, we must know about what are the teachings for it and how we can follow these teachings. We have very little knowledge. Because it is some reasons we have no time. Yeah, we have not guided. That's why, because little knowledge is not the main to implement their life properly. So little knowledge, yeah, lack of knowledge, or it it's not only me, but others religions also the same.
Just a quick thought is that, most things that we study, we study them for a certain period, right? So let's say if it's math or science, right? Maybe I study it from the time that I'm, 7 years old till the time that I'm 19 years old. And that's not, and if I want to become a physicist, maybe I study longer, I'll study math a little bit longer. Religion, very often, people study it when they're little children and then they stop. And so their understanding very often is the understanding of a child, right? So here they have this very deep, sophisticated religious tradition, right? And what they know is what a 9-year-old child would know, because that's where the education stopped. Very often, that's what happens. Or we know only those things that kind of apply to ritual, for example. So I know sometimes people, they know the rules of praying. They know how to hold their hand, how to hold their fingers, how to, right? They know things like that. But when it comes to interpersonal things, for example, they may not know. When it comes to doing business with honesty and integrity, that they may not know. So things which are very important to being a good person in this world, those we don't teach those to 9-year-olds. We don't teach those to little kids. Maybe we should, and we should maybe emphasize those more. But so a lot of times our knowledge of religion is stuck in some early phase. Carla, welcome. What do you think, Carla?
Hold on. I'm trying to get back to you. Hi.
I'm here.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get something done and I'm going to have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay. You do 5 minutes.
I think faith is something we all have and we've forgotten it. And until we remember that it's here and that it's a part of our lives, that's where it all comes from. I mean, really, if you look at all the religions, they're very much similar. And yet we're afraid of them because we don't talk to people. But if we listen to each other's hearts, I think we'd have a much different experience and understanding of what religion is and what faith is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the conflict between religions is artificial. I mean, it's based on ignorance. People don't know anything about each other. They've never had an opportunity sometimes to talk to each other. Muhammad lives. I assume Muhammad lives in Pakistan. You live in Pakistan, Muhammad?
Yes.
Yeah. Meet a lot of Jewish people in Pakistan?
No.
No. Okay. Right. Because that's the way the world is, right? That's the way the world is, and so we have, of course, opportunities like this. So maybe I phrase this question. Yes, Mohammed. Yeah.
I think so. We have a lot of misconceptions about Jews. Maybe we have not knowledge lot of. So maybe it's our fault. Yeah.
It's people, when people don't know about each other. I think that there's a phrase that nature abhors a vacuum. Nature doesn't. Whenever there's an empty space, people fill it in, and so if they don't know about something, they usually fill it in with nonsense. So people know a lot of nonsense about each other in the world, and if they don't know, and if you don't know about each other, it's very easy to think all sorts of things. And I think my experience is that when people encounter each other, the experience is always the same. It's always like, oh my goodness, a human being. Wow, who knew? You know, we're basically human beings. I have a living room, right? I have a kitchen where I make food just like everybody else because I have to eat. So, you know, it's this human life. That's what it's like, you know. So maybe I should change my question. Maybe I asked a bad question. Um, Anybody have like an idea, Hanina? Like, how can I make this a better question?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it's a bad question because it comes up now and then. And I mean, how often don't you read on Facebook, for example, or social media so often that religion only, all wars are caused by religion and stuff like that. So I mean, obviously people discuss it a lot. So yeah, no, I would think the question is good like it is. Or if you replace it with faith, like you said.
You know,
But anyway,
it
makes sense to ask that question.
I think it's a fine question also, but the problem is, I see it, is that I still see it different, whether it's a personal thing or if it's a global thing. You know, one could ask, the problem is, why is it that on the global stage that faith becomes such an issue? You know, that may be one question. There may not be, or you know, or what is your, looking at the solution is like, how is faith a solution for you? You know, it's just like that may be another way to go, is to go in either territory.
You know, on the global issue, I remember years ago, I was talking to somebody. I wish I could remember who it was. I like to give them credit for it, but we're talking about religious leadership, and I said honestly, like, I think about the great rabbis of the Middle Ages, and I could add the great sheikhs of the Middle Ages, you know, the Maimonides, Ibn Arabi, all these incredible thinkers, and Imam al-Ghazali, all these incredible thinkers of the Middle Ages. And I think, and nowadays, we don't have those kinds of thinkers. And so I asked them, I said, why is that? And their answer was really interesting. They said, look, in the Middle Ages, if you were a genius, right, you became a theologian, right? If you were a genius, you went into religion because that's where the universities were, right? If you wanted to, if you were really smart, that's the kind of study that you went into. He says, nowadays, if you're really smart, right, you go into physics, you go into engineering, you go into, you're not necessarily going to go into religion. And so what you end up with in religion, I hate to say this because I'm referring to myself, is people who like can't or won't do anything else. And I'm not sure that's true, but I feel like we do have a crisis of religious leadership. I look around the world today, when you talk about the global issue, and like, am I seeing like genius, amazing, committed religious leadership? I'm not so much seeing that. There are some bright spots for sure, but like, I also see a lot of really bad leadership, and a lot of people kind of led in kind of bad directions or allowed to remain in ignorance. Now that I've blasted all of religious leadership in the world, that'll be really good. Javid, you just joined us. Welcome.
Hi, sorry, I'm in England, and I'm just being driven to somewhere, but I wanted to come in onto your live stream. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I never get a chance, so I thought now I'm going to take my chance. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Okay, and I'm very excited about being in the back of a car in the UK. I feel like,
yeah. So I think it's I think the question that you've posed, faith, the problem or the solution, I don't think it's either. I think maybe I think faith is a very special, is a very sacred, is a very personal thing. But perhaps what Rabbi Weizmann, maybe you're talking about religion. which could be a problem or a solution. But faith is very sacred, and it should be very personal. And we all have different faiths and no faiths, and even with no faith, it's still someone with a faith, and they're included amongst us. No one's separate to us. Here, I live in a place called Bristol in England, and a few years back, I got involved in a very special project called Radio Salam Shalom, and it was to bring the Jewish and Muslim communities together. And we did regular podcasts together, and I set myself up with an Israeli young man, both of us together. We called our program the Abraham Nexus, and we started to discuss topics from an Islamic and a Jewish point of view. I certainly learned a lot about Judaism, but I certainly also learned a lot about Islam, which I didn't know before that. And why the conclusion we all came to was that we were all very similar. And the amount of times we said, oh, we do that, or we say that, oh, that's the same as us. And we came to afterwards, it was just bizarre. I mean, we just felt that it was religion and politics that was the problem. When you bring politics into faith, that's what causes the division. And it's been really nice to see Rabbi Weissman on Facebook with some of his posts and some of his things he says is really refreshing, because he's sort of stepped from that boundary of just being within his faith and reached out to others. And I think that's what we need to do as human beings, of people of faith, is to reach out to others. And surely that's why we're here.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, thank you so much for for the appreciation. I appreciate the appreciation. I mean, it's interesting you made the difference, because we started out my question originally was about religion. Then we kind of thought, okay, well, maybe we'll try faith. And I think that what I think we've kind of discovered in this discussion is that there are really two different things. One is kind of the personal faith, and the other is kind of collective religion. And while personal faith always seems to enrich people, and we can sort of see a lot of good from it, religion not always. As a social force can be quite negative. Obviously, I would love one day we'll talk about the Jewish Muslim discussion. But somebody once described to me somebody wrote an article, and they were talking about, they were a modern Orthodox person who had gone to a Muslim event, and she was trying to describe the feeling of familiarity that Jews often feel around Islam. And she said, it's like being in a foreign country and hearing people speak your language. That was how she described it. And I thought that was a great way to describe it. It's all of a sudden it's wait, did you really just say that? And I think that experience is one that when Muslims and Jews talk to each other, they have that experience a lot of kind of oh, okay, well, that's certainly familiar. And that's a good experience. I mean, that's a good experience.
And I think the issue there, Rabbi, is with labels, because I think we tend to see other people as others, and there's these labels we attach to each other. And certainly what we found when we set up Radio Salam Shalom, those radios disappeared, those labels, disappeared. And we saw each other as human beings of having the same sort of aspirations and worries and fears and love that we all have. And all the other things, the negativeness, all disappeared. So it's maybe about dialogue, is it maybe getting to know one another as well, which I think is important.
Right, and and honestly, this effort here, of making these online things, and I mean, that's really the purpose of them. It's really just a chance for people to get to know each other and to to communicate. And as human beings, and I'm sorry we can't all be in the same room and we can't, share food and water, but at least we can see each other, and talk to each other, and that
Yeah.
communication that changes, does change things. It's funny when I was looking at my question again, and I was, yesterday I bought a toolkit, because like I keep having to do things in my house, and I bought a toolkit, and I was thinking about my hammer, and like, would I call my hammer a problem or a solution? Well, it depends, like, on how I use it. Like, if I'm gonna be breaking my furniture, it's gonna be a problem. If I'm gonna be, hammering in nails and putting up pictures, it's gonna be a solution. And I think tools are like that, and maybe religion in particular can be kind of a tool, right? We use it as, I think Amal said very nicely, we use it for all sorts of things, including our own egos. I mean, I heard a religious teacher recently talking about how his followers were superhumans, and I said, once you have my teachings, you become superhuman. And I was like, okay, then religion does.
What is superhuman? Sorry.
I was like, really? Okay. I promise you, nobody who ever studied with me ever became superhuman. If you become human, that would be like good. I'm happy with human. A little more human would be good. Yes, Fanina.
So I'm thinking of, again, either both actually faith and religion. I think both of them, in their best way, in their best malbushim, in their best way that they're clothed and expressed, is they could be transformative. They could transform you to a higher place, but they also carry the risk of isolating you from others, and therefore resulting in mistrust, which caused fear, and that could even possibly lead to violence, which is really the direct opposite of that transformative goal that religions all, I think, share.
Yeah, I mean, I think about our religious uniforms. I love my religious uniform. I wear a cap and wear a beard and fancy hair, but it definitely creates a wall between you and other people sometimes. And you have to deal with that. Like, I have to decide, like, what do you think about that, and how do I negotiate that? I personally negotiate it by the element of surprise, because I always surprise them by the fact that I actually speak English. Like, sometimes people are, they look at me and they think, oh my God, the guy doesn't speak English. The guy, can't possibly, know anything about rock. Somebody said to me the other day, made a reference to like 1970s rock and roll, and then turned to me and said, "Oh, you wouldn't know about that." I said, "Well, actually, I would. Actually, I would." But I was at that concert also. It actually referenced the concert I had been to when I was a teenager. So I was there too. So.
I think sometimes when you talk about negativity in religion, I think that comes from maybe your own insecurities. I think if you're strong in yourself and in your faith, you shouldn't be having those sort of negative experiences or thoughts and stuff. I mean, again, I'm so sorry to use you, Rabbi, as an example, but you're very much, I see your post and you're always, sending congratulations to the Muslim community. You're sharing very much a lot of content as Muslim, but you're very much secure in your role as a Jewish rabbi. And I think sometimes when we do project negativity, it comes from our own, individual securities that all of us have maybe as human beings. And our faith should be something that helps us to overcome those. And if it isn't doing that, then maybe we have to question the way we are practicing our faith.
Yeah, and I think that's true, and I think very often I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I will for a second. I think very often what you get back from people has to do with kind of what you're putting out, you know.
Yep.
And if you're greeting people, and I mean that in the most broad sense possible, if you're greeting people with an open mind and open heart, and with an authentic curiosity, well, they're going to deal with you the same way. I mean, and if you're going to come from a place of suspicion, right? Well, they're going to deal with you the same way. I mean, people mirror each other. And so if you're kind of showing up and you're trying to, well, I don't know, I wonder about their motives. I wonder, that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karina.
So, I just want to get back to the model of, on one hand, this transformative positive model, and on the other hand, this isolationist model. The isolation comes from a good place in general, is because people congregate together. Muslims congregate together because they want to study together, and they want to learn together, and they want to practice together. And Jews do the same thing, and Christians do the same thing. So there's a natural tendency for people to cluster together. But when you cluster together, then you are, by doing that, you're also kind of not being with other people, and therefore it's very easy to fear people who are unlike you because you don't understand them, and that fear could have some terrible ramifications, that weren't part of wasn't why people isolated. It wasn't that it was for good reasons, so it's a complicated thing, to practice one's faith and religion. It's almost inherent that you kind of develop these things where there's going to be distrust.
Yeah, no, I think that's no, I think that, and it is true that it comes from a good place, and it's not, and there's a benefit to it. The question is, are you able, to know when to be inside, when to be outside, and it's important to have a front door. Everybody should have a front door. I have a front door also, but it's also nice to know that you can open it. I have a front door, and I don't let everybody in, but I let some people in. And if you never let anybody in, I think that's a problem. But knowing when you can, and learning how to be hospitable, in the broadest sense of being hospitable, I think that helps a lot. That helps a lot. And there's nothing wrong with being, that people live in communities, and that we wear our gang signs. Nothing wrong with those things. I think it's good. That way I can walk down the street, I see people look like me, go, yo, what's up? How you doing? We can give each other the sign. There's a benefit to that. That's also a beautiful thing. Although my problem is because I spend so much time. Yes.
I was just going to say, I don't know the gentleman's name who raised the issue about isolation. I think he's right. I think as human beings, we do find comfort in people that are like us. So we group together, we come together, and we celebrate together. We discuss things, and with other people that think the same as us. And there's nothing wrong in that. But I think isolating yourself, again, that's something negative. And that shouldn't be in faith or in religion, because what happens is, even within Islam, what happens is you create further barriers. So you have to be a certain type of a Muslim. You have to be, this school or this school or this school, and those are the kind of isolations that we need to break down. And I think Rumi sort of said, be like the river, that you keep on flowing, you keep on providing to everyone. despite who they are, and or be like the sun, where you give that warmth to anyone. You don't discriminate against anyone. I think that's who we should be. We should be strong in our faith and our beliefs, but we should be open as well.
Yeah, that's always it's always a very big challenge. You know, we have these kind of like traditions, and we have these kinds of and you know, I don't know, my kind of way of dealing with that is I try as much as possible to kind of look at the human realities behind, you know, they're you know, we have all these sects and religions and this and that, but beyond all of that, there's kind of the human reality. There's the people who are kind of the kind of people who are just trying to make their way through the world, trying to figure everything out, trying to live, trying to figure out like what's the best way to live. And it's not easy. And you know, I would like to think that I know all the answers, but experience has proven to me that I do not. Experience has proven to me again and again that I do not have all the answers. And whatever answers I thought I had last year didn't work this year. And when we had COVID and nothing worked, right? All of my expectations about the world got blown to bits. So I'm, you know, maybe learning to be a little bit humble, and I would hope that that you know, religion also teaches us a kind of humility, not just before our Creator, but before our own intelligence, and to realize that we don't know everything, and that that we can be, you know, we can be tolerant, we can be tolerant and appreciative, even more, and even loving towards those people who, you know, see the world differently than us, because they're not us, you know. That's the one thing, you know, it's very hard to appreciate the fact that other people are not us. Right? They don't think like us. They're not us, and that's a big challenge. But that's an important challenge. If God wanted to make everybody me, He would have done that. But I guess He didn't think that was a great idea.
There is a, you know, a tribalism, which is part, you know, and we go back in our faith, and you know, being part of tribes is really how it all started, really, you know, and in a certain sense how it still is, you know. But the thing is, I think we need to have respect between tribes, you know.
I think there's a beautiful verse in the Quran which says, God says, "I've made you into tribes," and I'm not sure what is it, tribes and communities, so that you may know one another.
Yeah,
I think that's a beautiful verse from the Quran.
Yeah, it's you know, that verse has become kind of like I don't know, has become kind of a I don't know, a motto for me, you know. And I think it's a beautiful way of thinking things, you know, that you know, when I meet people nowadays, I actually think about that verse a lot. You know, this idea that, you know, I'm here in an encounter to know you, right?
Yeah.
Not, you know, my job is not, I wasn't appointed as a judge, you know, I wasn't appointed, God didn't make me God. That's another thing He didn't do. He didn't make everybody me, and He didn't make me God. And so my job is to get to know you. My job is to find out who you are as a human being. And yeah, I think that's you know, what I find, honestly, is that religion. Now here I use religion with the big R, with, you know, the global religion. I think religion has a lot of beautiful things to teach us about how to be a human being among human beings, as well as how to be a human being in the tribe. Those things are not mutually exclusive, right? There is what it means to be a human being within your tribe, and what it means to be a human being within a world of tribes. And that verse is a very good example. It's saying, okay, of course, I mean, you're part of the ummah, you're part of the tribe, you're part of a people. At the same time, right? At the same time, the world is full of all sorts of different kinds of people, and you're going to encounter them. Here's a way of thinking about that. And we have the same thing in that sense, you know. You know, of course, we're a very tribal religion, right? We're defined by our tribal identity, by being B'nai Yisrael, right? By a family identity. But at the same time, we have ways of of getting to know and deal with the world, and people are different ways. Some people kind of tend on the tribal side, some people tend on the global side, but hopefully you're able to do both. Amal, you're very quiet there. Are you with us? There she
Yeah,
is.
I'm with you. I was just listening.
Just listening. Okay. Any thoughts as you're processing?
Not really. I'm absorbing everything.
Okay, absorbing is good. I appreciate absorption. Absorption is very good. So, I mean, I guess if I were going to improve on my question, I guess probably my improving my question would be, one, distinguish between faith and religion, maybe as kind of the personal versus the collective, and the other would be maybe to ask how. I mean, I think it's fair to say that religion could be used for both. It could be a problem or a solution. But my question would be, how do we make it more of a solution? What is it that we need to be doing?
I think to answer that question, Rabbi, I think we need to be forgiving, and not only forgiving others, to forgive ourselves as well.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's the biggest thing. We've got all this bound up tension in ourselves and this negativity, but just forgive yourselves and forgive others, and just I think release those negative emotions.
Yeah, I think you're right that a lot of the stuff that we're putting out into the world is our own fears, our own shame, our own self-loathing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We push that sometimes out into the world.
Yeah.
Amal, what do you think that we could do, that we could do, or we could learn, that could make this more of a solution in the world? There you go.
By having a conversation. I think that's the beginning of making a solution and seeing where the other person is coming from and just being compassionate towards them. We don't need to prove ourselves if they think of a certain way of view, because everyone has different schemas. Everyone was brought up differently, so their worldly view would be different. So it's up to them to change. It's not our responsibility to change them, but it's our responsibility to become to be a good role model, and like let them ask us questions so we can have conversation.
Yeah, I think if I were, one of the things I learned as I was a teacher of religion, right? I mean, I taught in a high school, and one of the things I realized after about, 20 years of teaching, was that my students were not studying my material; they were studying me, right? They were just watching me, right? And if I behaved in ways that they admired, then they learned something from it. If I did not, they learned nothing. And so in many ways, what we say about religion is way less important than what we do. People see, how you how you deal with the world, and maybe that's the biggest thing is how you behave and what you do, not necessarily what you say, and being available, making yourself available, and being there. Annika, what do you think?
Well, I think you've said what I would like to say, but I would like to get back to that verse to get to know each other, because the most important experience for me was in my childhood when I was not accepted the way I was by the surrounding villagers. And then I went to travel and I met my husband's family, first Muslim family, and they obviously had no problem whatsoever with my Christian faith that time. So yeah, what I learned is just always remember other people are human beings like you. They want to be treated like you, or in a good manner, like you would treat yourself. And then someone was mentioning forgiveness. Yeah, of course. I mean, we all have our shortcomings and should forgive ourselves and others. And I think in that way, you know, well, how should I say? That would be some tools really to make things better, to be humble and to be open-minded, see the others as other fellow human beings. Which
Why
of course
are
might
things always so difficult? Like being humble is not easy. That's I wish it were. I wish that were easy. It's so difficult, right? I mean, not that I'm so great, but I
isn't
think,
that easier for us? Isn't that easier for us as individuals, just like we mentioned talking about before? Because as soon as it's going to another level, there will be politics, there will be power, there will be money involved, and that's most of all out of our control. We can't do that much about it.
yeah, that's very true, and that's also a very good point, and that is like, okay, the solution is going to be what you can do. It's not, there's so little that I can control, right? Even, yes, I'm part of a community, but like I can't control my community. I can't control what people do, or their attitudes. I can't control any of that. All I can do is I can behave, and I can do the things that I can do to make it better. I can be, I can be part of, I can be part of the solution, and rather than be part of the problem, in terms of, dealing with my own ego and dealing, and approaching people openly and humbly, and 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 with that kind of, desire to know other people, that curiosity, um, and not assume that I know already, which is hard, because we have all these, we have all these stories, in our head about everybody else, right? And we think we know, right? We think we know. We heard, I heard that, and then of course you find that those things are, um, thoughts, Yachnina?
So I think, at least as I practice Judaism, and I think this holds true for most other faiths as well, is that for the most part, I think we need to, through the teachings of whatever faith we're in, have our heart and mind kind of in balance with one another. In general, I think that is the path that we, to really study what we need to study. It takes a great deal of intellect, but we have to apply our heart as well. But when times get really hard, I think that balance isn't necessarily the best approach. I think the heart needs to take the lead over the intellect in order to resolve what problems are happening. So normally they both need to be in sync with one another, but in times of great distress in the world or in your communities, I think the heart has to take a greater priority.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I may be your type. I feel like there are heart people in the world, and there are head people in the world, and I know that I'm much more of a heart person than a head person. But I would agree with you. I mean, I think that the world right now does not need necessarily more intellectuals trying to figure everything out. The world needs people who are going to be able to be open-hearted and to love each other. And it would be not, of course, our faith is interesting because Judaism often tends to be very head heavy. It tends to be, we put a great emphasis on learning and study, and it can be very head heavy and can be a little heart short. And so we struggle with that. But I think you're right. I think that we need to have, to have more heart. Yeah.
Especially in times of distress,
Yes.
or dealing with distressful situations that come up, because we want to approach it rationally, of course, and we want to apply teachings from our religious faith, but at the same time using compassion and your heart as essential to fixing things when they go south.
So I just want to make a quick apology. I see that I have waiting in the wings here. I have a person waiting in the wings, but I can't recognize who you are, and I can't see a camera, and I don't recognize the name, so I'm not going to bring you in today. So I please apologize. Next time, come in with a full name, and so I can see you. To make sure that we don't have a couple of bad incidents last week of people just kind of barging in. So I want to just be a little more careful. I'm being a little cautious. So I apologize. So we're about an hour. We're about an hour in. So if it's okay with everybody, I figure this is a natural break. I think. I just want to thank everybody for joining today and having the chance to meet you. Everybody knows how to find me. I'm very easy to find on Facebook, Twitter. And this goes for anybody who's watching this. If you're watching it in reruns and you have any questions or thoughts, please do share them with me. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and I look forward to next week, and I hope I get to see you all again.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to join you.
My pleasure.
Bye bye. Assalamu alaikum.
So then.
So.